Hello. It's your girl Karaleise. How you guys doing? Today we're going to be talking about the UAT. We are going to be continuing on our series on UAT. I've done a few videos about this already, but honestly guys, I ignored UAT for a long time on my channel. And then I realized, I haven't made a video on UAT, and I opened that door up and it's just exploded. People are very confused about the UAT process. I get lots of emails. People book consultations with me to talk about this thing. So there's a lot of confusion, especially for new BAs, as to how do you manage a UAT facilitation session? How do you get the right testers? How do you know you have the right environment? How do you write the test cases? All of these questions is what people have. So in this playlist of UAT, we have done this video which talks about the whole process itself and just everything you need to know about the UAT completely. That's the whole concise video on that, so go watch that. And then I have this other video which talks more about the process for the UAT and the different process steps and what should happen first and then next and then next. And how do you make sure you're having the best process? And sometimes you just need to be able to articulate the process that you're planning for the UAT, because your management, your product owner, your project manager, your program manager, they want to know that you have a plan. So they're going to be asking you before you get to the end of the development effort to say, okay, what are you planning to do for us to be able to test this thing? And so you have to be able to tell them that. So in that video, we talk about the UAT process in order to help you to have some talking points and to be able to share with your management what your plans are for testing the new feature, the new app, the new website, the new software tool, whatever it is that you're building, right? So go check that out. And then I have this other video about the bugs itself. Like, how do you track the bugs? How do you make sure you're keeping abreast of what they're finding in the UAT testing effort itself, right? So I have this spreadsheet that I use and I've shared with you that has all the columns that I use, the drop-down values I use, just everything that you would need. And it's also available for you to download for free. Free. You hear me? Free. Okay? My experience, I'm giving it to you. Just take it. All right? So you have no excuse. You have no excuse to not do a good job. All right? Because I got you. You hear me? I got you. All right? So go to caraleise.com to download the free template for your UAT. In this video, though, what I want to talk about is, in that video about the bug tracking, I did not talk as much about how do you report on the bugs that you found. Because it's one thing to facilitate a good UAT and have all the testers and the right environment and it's going well, but if nobody knows the outcome of it, right? If we can't boil that up in a way that can be easily understood, and you're not able to report on the status of it back clearly to your program manager, project manager, product owner, all these people, then you're not going to have a bigger impact, and it's hard to pull that together. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a dashboard so that as the testers are creating these bugs, your dashboard is auto-updating itself and you're able to answer quick questions like, how many bugs have we uncovered? What areas have we tested? How much is left to test? All these things they're going to be asking you. So using this dashboard will help you to have those answers. So without further ado, I know I talk a lot, y'all. That's just me. Yap. Without further ado, let's go upstairs to my office and let's work on this together. Let me show you how to do this, and I will see you in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so now we're in my office and we are going to be looking at this sheet, which you guys would have seen already from that video on the UAT bug tracking list. So this is the overview page for your bugs, right? So you're going to have this Excel sheet, as we talked about in that video, and you're going to share this with all of your test participants. And then as they go through the test cases, which is also listed here, as I said in that video, all of these tabs right here are actually test cases that you would have shared with them, and they will be going through each of these tabs to complete the tests that are in this tab. So this tab will have all of the different steps that they should be taking. All right. So your testers will go through this, and then when they find a bug or they think it's a bug, if they're virtual, they'll come off mute because you'll be running a meeting that they'll be in. They'll come off mute and they'll highlight what they've found, and you'll confirm it's a bug, and then they'll go and log it. And the good thing about this when you're doing it virtual is that because it's one meeting that everybody's in and they're all testing at the same time, then if somebody else has the same bug, they don't go and log it again because they don't want to have duplicate bugs, right? So the expectation is that, and that you're going to explain to them, would be that they'll confirm with you before they log the bug. So let's say they found a bug, they confirm it's a bug, and you tell them go ahead and log it. Now, this is where they would log it in this tracking list, and it basically has all of the areas. Let me move myself out of the way. It has all of the different areas that you're testing for, right? So in this case, we're testing a underwriting kind of insurance system, and it had all of these different sections that we needed to test. So they'll come in here, they put in what is there, the area they're testing, and that will be a drop down with all the different areas that you would pre-populate for them. They just need to pick the right one. They'll put their description as to what they encountered. They put their screenshots as to what it is that they what screens they were on, and so you can follow and probably replicate the bug. And then they'll put whatever pertinent information that you ask them to put, and the rest of it would be to be completed by your team. So they know they don't have to fill this part in. You'll just fill that in by yourselves. So as a project team, that is, the project team will fill in the pieces that the testers are expected to fill in. So a few things to call out here. You're going to have a very long sheet sometimes with probably hundreds of bugs. And so when you go to the meetings and they say to you, what's the status of the UAT, right? You can't just say, well, we have been testing and we've found some bugs and some of them are being worked on and some of them are not. It'll be much easier if you're able to articulate exactly what that is and give more high-level information. And what's even better is if they can come in and see it themselves. They don't even have to ask you. They can always check this sheet, this Excel file, and be able to see what's going on. So what I have here is this overview page, which I talked about in that video, that has details about the actual test and the environment and the areas they're going to cover and the different test scenarios, etc. But what I didn't show in that video was how you can actually show a dashboard like this that will help answer some very pertinent questions. So, for example, you want to see how far along the test are you? So you have test completion, which is an important thing. How much do we have left to test? If you can put it in a graphic like this, that would be absolutely wonderful, because now they can come in here and they can see exactly what's left. Then we have bugs by priority. So in the bugs by priority, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. All right, so the bugs by priority is you have categorized your bugs as critical, high, medium, and low. How many of each type of bugs are we finding? If you find that you have a lot of critical bugs, that's a very big indication that y'all did something wrong in this building of this software or this enhancement, because y'all shouldn't have so many critical bugs, right? So you can see just the quality just from looking at a graph like this. And then you want to see, okay, what are the different statuses of the bugs that we have found? So bugs by status. So we have open, deferred, won't fix, in progress, fixed. So when you create a bug, as we said, it'll be open. Then once they start working on it, it'll be in progress. And then if it's fixed, it's completed, you put it as fixed. If it's something that you decide you're not going to fix right now, you're going to live with it, then it won't be under won't fix. And then if you're going to defer to a different release, you put it under deferred. Now, these are all statuses that you would be updating on this sheet, right? So when you go back to this sheet, you will have a status column right here, and you would have to go in and update what the statuses are. Now, people would say to you, well, we already have this in Jira, so isn't it double work to have it in Jira and also have it to manage it on a tracking list? The challenge is in Jira, you probably could pull together a report like this, but it's not something that is native. And I don't know if your workflow statuses would map exactly to this, and you don't want to disrupt that because that's going to be used for your regular development. So you don't want to change and add things that are only temporary for the UAT. So I just found it easier to manage for myself to go in here and update this bug list and use this as my source of truth rather than trying to dig down through different multiple user stories. Sometimes bugs can have spin-off bugs and other bugs. So I don't want to just be trying to chase down bugs. I just know that this bug, which came out of UAT, however it breaks down into the user stories, doesn't matter. This bug is still in progress. This bug has been completely fixed. It could be fixed over 5 different user stories. But I don't have to manage those breakdowns. I just need to know this thing in its entirety has been addressed, right? So I personally prefer to manage it here. It is a little bit more work because you have to go back through each of these bugs and update the status so that this chart can be correct. But I feel like the value is so much bigger and it's a little mundane, but I'd rather do that than to try to fight with Jira to make it do this kind of stuff, right? And then you have bugs by feature. So yes, how many bugs in what statuses do we have? But what are the different things that are generating the most bugs? So if you find that in this case, we had a number of different areas that we were testing, and in this case, adding the line slip data was generating the most bugs. So it's obvious that that part is more buggy than other parts, right? So it might mean that maybe the requirements were off on that or other things, right? So you can make judgment calls, you can have a better picture of what your UAT is uncovering by having these. There's some other ones I would show as well, such as probably a little bit more around the different types of bugs. So not just the status of the bug or the feature the bug is found, but are these bugs UI bugs? Are these just misrequirements? Are these performance bugs? Are these backend? Like, I would want to know what is the actual breakdown of these bugs, right? So that's the other one I would add. After that, I wouldn't get any more granular with it because I guess those 5 things would answer all of the questions that I think a product manager or a senior level executive would want to know. So how do we generate these charts? It's pretty simple. So on your bug tracking list, you will have these drop downs that you would have pre-created for them. And as they choose them, what you need to do is you need to count or group how much of these different categories are being created. So what I do is I find a spot on my page or somewhere out of the way that is not going to be confused for the actual table. You could create your own tab for this, or just, in my case, I just went all the way to the Z column right here. Let me get this out of the way. I went all the way to the Z column and I created these data summarization values so that I could use them in my charts. So in the status chart, then I was able to count how many bugs are in open, in fix, and the different drop down values, right? So there's a formula I use here, which is just count if, and I show the range, and if the value is open. Count if it's fixed. So I'm counting on, probably put myself up here so I don't have to keep moving. I'm counting on the column that has the status, and I'm counting all the values that match this value here. So it's a pretty simple formula. So count if this column, oh Lord have mercy, I still blocked the column number. Count if this column is open or fixed. All right, I think I'm gonna leave myself right here. Hi y'all, yay! So I leave it right here, okay? And then, so you just go through it and you count, and that's how you get your values. So now once you get your values, then you go in here and you just create a chart, right? Let's say I was gonna create a new chart. You go to insert, and then you go to chart, and then you start choosing the type of chart. Let's say you want a pie chart. This is in Google Sheets, by the way. Then you start adding the values, all that stuff, right? That's so it's pretty straightforward. So that is how you get your chart here, and you choose the columns that make sense. And then you can also change the colors as to what you want to represent what. So yeah, being able to show this is status is the one, this one. So being able to show this is very important. So it's going to show you for each of the counts that we have, how much of the whole. And it's also important to know what graph makes the most sense for the type of data. So in this case, being showing it as a donut chart or a pie chart would make the most sense because you're trying to show a percentage of the whole, right? For the test completion chart, so this one was also pretty simple. So what I did was I knew how many tabs I have for the test cases, right? And in this case, I don't have all that I would typically have, but I would say, let's say there are, let's say 9. There's 9 test scenarios or test flows that I want the testers to test, right? So each of these tabs would represent a whole end-to-end flow. And so I wanted to test these things, and I have 9 of them. And so far, they've been able to go through, let's say, 6 of them. And even though if they've found bugs or whatever, but they've been able to complete to the last testing step or last test case of these flows. And so they've marked it as complete. And so now there's a few that nobody has touched. So you'll know which ones are complete because in each test case, for example, you have test completed. And if all of the testers have completed that, then you could say that's complete, right? And like, for example, this one, Lori, you can check with Lori, say, okay, Lori, when can you finish this one? So we can mark this as completed and so on and so forth. So now you know which tests are complete. So all you got to do is just tally that up. And then you have your completed versus not completed. And that's all you have to show in this pie chart right here. That's it. Very useful, very simple to create. And then bugs by priority is the same kind of thing where you know the priority that you have for bugs. So right here, you have priority, which is high, medium, critical, high, medium, and low, which are all the options in this drop down. So over here, I have priority, and I have this formula over here that counts on the column and checks for the word critical, checks for the word high, checks for the word medium, checks for the word low, and you're just using countifs. Once you get that total, then you use this value to create your chart. And then you choose, in this case, it makes more sense to choose like a bar chart or a column chart. So that's what you use right here, and that's what you show. Same for the by feature. You just have all the features from this sheet over here. Let's go to, I'm sorry, let's scroll over. I'm not using my mouse, so it's really giving me a hard time, huh? So let's go to the drop down here. Okay, so these are all the different things that we're testing for. And as you can see, we have quite a number of options in this drop down, right? So we can choose any of these things. So you just do the same thing. So you do in this summarization table, you choose each of the different areas that you're testing for, and then you do the same countive checking for that name. Now, if you change the name, you change the text, it's going to throw your numbers off. So be careful if you use uppercase or lowercase or whatever, don't change it because then this is not going to recognize it and the values are going to be off. So that's what you do so that you can have this chart. And as they go through and they update, then the chart will update itself. You don't have to redo it. It's pretty awesome. So if I were to go in here and I were to just change some of this data and make it different, just to show you what it would do, as you guys probably already know because you're very familiar with Excel. Then when you go back here, your data starts changing, right? So your managed sign lines gets longer than it was before. Maybe some of you didn't recognize that because you weren't paying attention. But if I go here and I change the type of bug this is, let's make it line slip data again. All of these line slip data. Then the managed signed lines column would go down and the mind slip data column would definitely go up. So that's what that is. So as they go in and they make changes, see how that looks? So it's definitely different from how it was before. So as they make changes, this updates and everything just keeps, fresh. So if you do this at the beginning, and as you're going through a UAT, anytime somebody asks you, so give us an update on what the UAT process is like, you can just jump right here and you can talk with lots of confidence. And you send them the sheet and say, here's the dashboard with all the information you want to know about the test progress so far. so that was the UAT video, y'all. That was it. Very concise, to the point, but you see the value of what I showed you, right? I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that it helped you to see how you could really add value to your team by having a good dashboard that they can look at and they can follow. It will add value to you as a business analyst and help them to see you in that light, right? That you know what you're doing. So go to my website and download the template for this. And also go check out my other videos in the series about the UAT. Thank you guys. See y'all later. Bye bye.